Hi, and welcome to your class today. I'm Laura. This will be a slow-paced yin yoga focused backbend class. So the poses will be nice and easy. I'll have lots of options for you to take them to whatever level that you want to take your body today. Some suggestions to have with you are maybe a couple of yoga blocks or a bolster or even just a nice big fluffy pillow. You can do the whole class without blocks, but I like to have them standing by because it's nice to have our body supported, and you never know how you may be feeling until you get into some of the postures. So let's go ahead and we're going to start by slowing down and coming into the center of our mat, beginning with child's pose. Go ahead and take the knees out wide. We'll make this a wide-legged child's pose. And when you're ready, we'll just go ahead and fold the body forward, walking the arms out in front of you. Allow the forehead just to kiss the mat. Sending the body a signal that this is a time for ourselves, a time to slow down and to slow the pace of the body and the mind. As we move today, we'll mostly observe the breath. We don't need to control the breath during our yin practice. This is unlike vinyasa, where you may do ujjayi breath and you're restricting the flow of the breath at the back of the throat. In yin, just encourage yourself to be mindful of the breath and allow the breath to flow freely, expanding throughout the belly, the ribs, and the chest. As you inhale, softly releasing. As you exhale, creating space and peace. Soothing the body as you release the breath. On an inhale, let's go ahead and bring ourselves up to tabletop. From here, of course, the shoulders are over the wrists and the hips are over the knees. And from our tabletop, we're going to come into our first passive back bend, coming into melting heart or puppy pose. So keep the knees and the hips right where they're at. And from here, we're going to extend the arms out, walking the hands out in front of us, reaching, and then softly lowering the forehead down to the mat. Allow the chest to reach for the mat. This is a passive movement in yin yoga. So we're allowing ourselves to be soft, allow the belly to relax. If you want to deepen, you could also take the chin towards the mat. I'll try to be mindful of my mic so I'm not reverberating the sound into the mat and against the mic. And if you'd like to go even further into opening the shoulders, I'll offer one more option here as well, and that's to have blocks just towards the front, supporting the forearms. Takes a little bit of management here to find the right distance. I like to have it right underneath the forearms and then my fingers wrapped around the front edge of the blocks. Creates a little more space for the chest to fall through, opening further into the shoulders. Depending on the openness into your shoulders and into your back, you may want to avoid the blocks altogether. But as we come into each of these asanas, remember they are there for us to explore And not just to follow a straight dogma of how it should look when you see it in a book or in a picture. We want to explore a feeling. So here we're looking for a gentle back bend, deepening into the shoulders. Opening the shoulders is a big part of back bends, believe it or not. Staying open in the front part of the body is actually what gives those beautiful openings into our back bends, whether you're trying to come into wheel or camel or even upward facing dog. Now, if you're up on the blocks, it can be a little bit awkward coming out, especially since you have held the pose for so long. So use caution and take your time in coming out of the posture, maybe coming off of the blocks first and then lowering onto your forearms. For now, you can just set the blocks over to the side. We're going to shift our hips back, bring the knees together so that the knees come to touch, and we'll come into a narrow-legged child's pose. Allow the head to rest onto the mat once more. Arms can come alongside you and just relax the shoulders. Allow them to spread wide across the back. With the arms alongside the body, think of the arms growing heavier and sinking deeper into the mat. Almost as if you were to move from the posture, imagine there would be a nice imprint from the weight of the arms. From here, let's go ahead and take the hands and bring them alongside the knees and push ourselves up so that we're sitting onto the heels. Keeping the legs where they're at in this narrow position, we're going to come into a twisted child's pose. So bring the hands to heart center. From here, we're going to twist over towards the left, start to lower the torso down, and bring the right elbow to the outside of the left knee. From here, we'll lift, revolve the chest to bring it towards the thumbs, maybe gazing up towards the ceiling. Holding in your twist, continue to breathe. So important in these twists to keep moving the breath. Relax the face. Maybe give yourself a little smile. And on an inhale, let's come back to center, upright. Release the hands down. Let's separate the knees out wide. And from here again, we'll come into a revolved version of our child's pose. So we'll walk the torso down. From here, take the right hand, thread it underneath the left hand or the left arm, and drop that right shoulder down to the mat. So now the right side of the face touches the mat. The left hand, if it feels comfortable, can stay right here to the side of the face. Or if you'd like to take the bind, you can also wrap the left hand around the back, maybe tuck the left hand into the top of the right thigh. We'll hold in this version of a twist, getting a little stretch into the back of the right shoulder. Feeling that twist a little differently here as we come onto this side. Opening the knees up wide, just created some space so that we could allow the torso to touch the mat. Feel the waves of the breath. Notice as you move in twists or folds how the feeling of the breath in the body changes. Sometimes it's more noticeable, sometimes it's a little harder to track. Maybe you find yourself breathing more deeply when you're in a fold versus when you're in a twist. When you're ready, let's unwrap that bind with the left hand. Take the left hand, place it to the outside of the cheek, and then we're going to press into the mat. Open up the right hand. Twist and open up towards the ceiling. Reach with the fingertips. Stay broad across the collarbone. And then let's relax that right hand back down towards the earth. From here, we're going to pick up the hips and then go ahead and walk ourselves out, coming onto our bellies for that most magnificent, at least my opinion, of back bends, Sphinx. So resting onto the hips, widen out the feet so you make space to feel comfortable in your low back. And then the elbows should be slightly in front of the shoulders so that we're not constricted within the front of the body. The arms, the forearms, at a slight diagonal. From here, let's think about lifting the heart center. Staying lifted in the chest, and again, broad across the collarbone. And we'll hold in our Sphinx pose. Seeking the breath, notice where you feel it. Enjoy the connection of the low belly to the mat. Feel yourself rise and lower. Slowly rising with the breath and sinking with the outgoing breath. Perhaps coming a little deeper into Sphinx pose. From here, taking the hands a little closer towards you. Doesn't have to be very close, but just slightly walking them in so you can lift. Perhaps coming into seal pose, completely optional. This does deepen the back bend. Lifting the elbows from the mat, coming up onto the fingertips. Staying lifted in the chest, relax in the shoulders. Mindful of the low back, so if you feel any pinching or sharpness, please lower down or walk the hands a little bit further away from you. Softly lower down onto the forearms. From here, we'll draw the hands underneath the shoulders, push into the mat, come up into a baby cobra. So the hands are still pressing into the mat. The elbows are drawing down and in towards the sides, lifting up with the chest. Requiring a bit more strength in this pose. This is not necessarily a yin pose. This is definitely more active. And if you want to take it a step further, you can try to stay lifted in the chest. Maybe bring the hands up and off of the mat. So now you're only using the strength of the upper back to hold. Breathe. If you're lifted in your baby cobra, we'll hold for 3, 2, and 1. Very good. Let's go ahead and lower the chest, push into the mat, and then we'll go ahead and drive the hips back, sitting back onto the heels. This time we'll bring the knees together once more. And we'll prepare for that revolved child's position, taking it over towards the right. So the knees are together. Draw the hands into heart center. From here, we'll start a twist towards the right and then start to lower as you bring the left elbow to the outside of the right knee. Pressing into that right knee for some leverage, start to draw this heart center towards the thumbs. Stay lifted in the chest, maybe gaze up towards the ceiling. Find the breath. Allow the breath to circulate through the body. Maybe notice yourself creating these big breaths or sighs. Maybe making audible noises as you breathe when you take slow-paced classes such as this. Allowing ourselves to release any anxiety or stress. On an inhale, let's go ahead and release that twist. Lower the hands, separate the knees out wide, making some space for this next lower end twist so that we can put our torso down and in between the legs. Let's go ahead and walk the torso forward. Extend the arms, take the left arm, thread it underneath the right, similar to our thread the needle pose, but we're just a little different here, of course, in the hips and the back body. Lower the left side of the face to the mat. The right hand can either stay on the outside of the face, or if you want to take a bind, go ahead and wrap that right arm behind you. Maybe tuck the right fingers into the top of that left thigh. Hold here, enjoy this bind. And the back of the shoulder gets a nice stretch as well. There is no isolation in these yoga postures. There are always so many things going on. We have the hips getting a nice stretch, the shoulders, the chest. And when you're ready, go ahead and release the bind of the right hand. Place the right hand down alongside the face. Go ahead and push into the mat. And then from here, we'll just open up that left arm. Still sitting on the heels, reaching the left fingertips up, widening across the collarbone, and just taking a great big stretch. Inhale. Exhale. Place the left hand down onto the mat. Pick up the hips. Start to walk the hands forward. From here, we're going to tuck the toes and push back into downward facing dog. And since we are using this mostly as a transition, we might as well take a moment here in our downward facing dog and enjoy the gentle stretch in the back body. Go ahead and take a nice inhale. Exhale, sigh it out. One more like that. Inhale. And exhale, sigh it out. When you're ready, we're going to step the left foot forward. Bring the left foot in between the hands for a low lunge. Set the right knee down onto the earth. Optional whether you want to keep the back toes tucked or untucked. I like to have them untucked. We're going to hold here in a low lunge for a minute or two. If you like, the hands can stay resting on top of the left thigh. That will require more balance, a little more strength, more activation. If you'd like to really sink down deeply and perhaps go more into a back bend in your low lunge, grab for your blocks. You can start with them on the highest height. I like to have them pretty much abeam my hips. And then from here, start to lift the chest. Think of leading with the sternum, the heart center. Sinking low into the hips. Perhaps as you hold here for a minute or so, maybe change the height of the blocks. Don't feel restricted to one variation. Explore your practice. and see what works for you. Maybe you need to bring the blocks a little further back to go a little more into a back bend. Pushing into the blocks with the hands so that you can lead and lift with the chest. This isn't just a back bend, but we're also getting a lot into those hips. But bringing the earth a little more closely to us makes this a little easier, especially coming into the back bend portion. If you were to take the blocks away and to come as far back, perhaps in this position, it would be quite a challenge. To come out, slowly start to bring the torso to a neutral position. And then walk the hands forward, maybe using the blocks. Set the blocks to the side, just out of the way. You may need them again. And from here, we're going to walk the left foot towards the right, coming into our swan pose on the left side. So adjust that left shin. Maybe you have the shin in closer towards the midline. Maybe you have it parallel with the top edge of the mat. Wherever you're at, just check that knee to make sure that you're not feeling any pinching or any unwanted sensation. If you need to, you can have a block or a rolled up blanket underneath the left hip to feel balanced so that we're not just falling over to one side. We want to feel like we're sitting right on top of those hips and the hips are in a neutral position. Hopefully both facing forward, squared off towards the front edge of the mat. The left leg extended the right leg extended behind you with the knee facing down. And since this is a back bend class, we're going to stay upright in our swan pose, just to encourage that back bend. Now, if you are feeling any pinching into the low back, if this is too much, by all means, walk the hands forward. Take some of that back bend away until you feel that sharpness release. If you're comfortable with staying upright, that places the weight directly over the hips. Again, it keeps you into more of a back bend position, especially into the low back. And you'll feel more stretching into other areas versus if you are in our sleeping swan, with the torso folded straight over the front of the left shin. From here, let's shift onto the left hip. So we're releasing out of this swan pose. Keeping the left knee where it's at, we're going to start to bring the right knee up and stack the right knee on top of the left for our Gomukhasana or cow face pose. Your right knee can be lifted, doesn't need to be perfectly flat onto the left. If you need to sit a little higher onto a blanket or even onto a block, having the hips higher than the knees can make this more accessible. From our cow face pose, you can absolutely stay right here. If you'd like to, you can start to come into a back bend and walk the fingertips behind, coming to a point that feels comfortable for you, lifting in the chest. This also opens up into the front of the chest and the shoulders as well. And keep breathing. I always find that a little smile allows the muscles in the face to relax. Kind of gives you a reminder that it's okay to relax even the muscles of the face into the sides of the temples, the forehead. Allow the skin to be smooth and soft. We'll start to come out by walking the hands forward, coming to an upright position, and then unravel the legs. Let's go ahead and take a couple of windshield wipers to release the hips. Allow the fluid to flood through the joints and the cartilage. And when you're ready, we're going to cross the ankles, roll over the ankles, come onto the hands and to the knees. Kind of reposition myself on the mat here. When you're ready, tuck the toes, push yourself back into downward facing dog. We'll enjoy a couple of breaths here in downward facing dog as we stretch out the ankles and the back of the legs. Inhale. Exhale, release it out. Inhale again. Exhale, sigh it out. And when you're ready, we'll step the right foot forward this time, coming in between the hands, lowering the left knee for that low lunge. Again, option to tuck or untuck the back toes. Grab the blocks if it feels good. You could always just have the hands up and resting on the top of that right knee, taking a back bend in this position. It will be more active, as I said, on the other side because it will require more balance. With the blocks, you're free to push into the blocks and use them for support. Maybe walk the blocks in line with the hips. Start to lift the chest, open the shoulders, broaden across the collarbone, and breathe. I saw an interesting study on the news the other day about sighing is very healthy for you. And if you've noticed during many of your yoga classes, whether it's cued or you just do it naturally, we tend to sigh and we release the breath. That full body relaxation. And now it's been proven to be extremely effective for anxiety and stress relief. So there may be several other breath practices, whether you practice pranayama, but simply sighing could be your ticket to finding relief. Gently come out of the back bend, reversing from where you came in your low lunge. Maybe setting the blocks to the side. Coming into our swan pose now on the right. Walk the right foot over. Start to sink the right shin down. Adjusting the position so that your knee feels comfortable. And then coming into your swan. Staying lifted in swan pose. Enjoying this back bend. If you need to relieve anything, any tension into the low back, then of course start to walk yourself forward until that tension comes away. And we'll start to slowly make our way into our cow face pose on the right side by shifting into the right hip, starting to draw the left leg up, using your hands if they need a little assistance, and then stacking the left knee on top of the right. The heels are just outside of the hips. We may be quite different from one side to the other. So again, taking your options with your props, either sitting up higher on a blanket or a block, and then coming into your cow face pose on this side. From here, if you would like to add the back bend, you can walk the fingertips behind, draw the shoulder blades together, lifting the chest, moving the shoulders away from the ears. And to come out, we're going to walk ourselves back to an upright posture. Unwind the legs. Give ourselves a little gift of windshield wipers, releasing the hips. And when you're ready, we're going to swing the heels and the ankles back around. First, come through tabletop, maybe moving yourself towards the center of your mat. Knees come together and touch, and we'll sit back onto the heels once more. For the next posture, we're going to take a hero pose with an added back bend, and I do have a number of options. First, we'll demonstrate this without props. And so staying here, sitting onto the ankles, you can just come back slightly and take a back bend by, as we did in our cow face pose, walking the hands behind us, lifting the chest, opening up through the shoulders, gazing up towards the sky. You can keep the neck neutral. If it feels good, you can drop the neck all the way behind, wherever you feel the most comfortable. Now, if you would like to come much lower, you can lower all the way down onto the forearms. It takes a little effort to get down here, sometimes a little awkward just to make the transition. But coming onto the forearms again. Instead of allowing the chest to collapse, stay lifted within the chest, gazing up towards the sky. Those are your options without the props. Now I'd like to show you a couple of options by using the bolster. So go ahead and you can watch me at first if you'd like. Take your bolster and go ahead and set your bolster just at the outside of the toes. We're going to fold over the bolster. And so if you would like kind of an in-between position, you can come again to the forearms. So similar to what we did before, but since we are lifted here now, a little higher off of our mat, it might be a little easier instead of lowering all the way down onto the floor. You may very well like this quite a bit. You can press into the forearms, lift through the chest, and then gaze can stay up with the neck neutral or allow the neck to drop. Totally dependent on how comfortable you are in your neck. And now for the next pose, I would say that this is probably the deepest of all of the poses as far as the back bend, but you'll slowly lower your back. So your mid back is supported on the bolster. Folding over the bolster, coming into a back bend. The crown of the head, reaching for the mat. You can stay right here with the arms alongside the body. Taking it even a step further, the arms can come overhead. This is a very, very deep back bend. If it's too much being on the crown of your head, you can also come to the back of the head. This is the version I prefer the most, especially with the arms extended. Coming into this version of the back bend, we are supported, but you're going to still feel a nice lift into the center of the chest. Since we're all the way down onto the mat, you're going to feel a bigger stretch into the front of the thighs, into the front of the hip flexors. Allow the arms to relax and feel heavy. We'll be here for a few more breaths, so if you would like to explore another version, go ahead and give it a try. You can always come back to it. Play the class again. See what you like. Maybe the next time you're in another class, you think, oh, I tried this shape. I want to try this again. Or maybe I want to come a little deeper. I feel more relaxed today. Now the trick is getting out of the posture. If you are lowered all the way down and your hands are overhead, first start by bringing the hands up and in towards your center. So bring them in tightly towards your side, and you'll start to push into your bolster with your elbows, then with your forearms, and come all the way up to seated onto the heels. Not the most graceful, but you do have to use a little strength to power yourself to get on up. From here, we're going to take a supported camel pose. So let's go ahead and come to a kneeling position. You can grab your blocks, place one block on the outside of the heels. From here, we're going to take our camel pose. So take the hands, allow the fingertips to come to the back edge of the blocks. And then from your supported camel pose, we're going to lift with the chest. Think about creating space between your chest, the front of your chest, leading away from the heels. Breathe here. And as you lift with the chest and lead up towards the sky, lengthening into the front of the body, maybe start to shift the hips forward just slightly. So now you also enjoy a little stretch into the front of the hips. Let's slowly lower. Release the hips back down towards the heels. Pause for a moment. When you're ready, again, we're going to place the hands onto the blocks, push up with the hips, and then come back into our camel pose. Round 2, inhale. Exhale. One more breath in. On the exhale, can you lower the hips while the hands stay connected to the blocks? Sometimes a little challenge because there's not a lot of space to move the hips back and have the arms in that position. One more round of our camel pose. We're going to push into the hands, lift the hips, drive the chest up. Take a great big inhale. Exhale it out. One more breath in. Exhale, release. Very good. Let's go ahead and set those blocks off to the side, not too far out of the way. We'll need them one more time today. We're going to kick the heels out towards the side. And from here, we're going to go ahead and take a twist. So we've done several back bends. Let's go ahead and take a couple of gentle twists to kind of neutralize the spine. Extend the right leg out long. Draw the left heel in so the left knee is bent. A gentle twist is what we're going for today. So let's take the left hand behind us, lift the right arm up, and then just give that left knee a squeeze as you hug it into the chest. Rotate and twist over towards the left. Inhale, release, unwind, extend that left leg out, draw the right knee in this time. Let's take the right hand behind us. Inhale the left arm up, and then exhale, twisting towards the right, giving the right knee a nice hug, perhaps gazing behind you. Staying in our twist. When you're ready, unwind. And from here, let's go ahead and grab a block so that we have it with us when we travel down onto our backs. So go ahead and bring the feet in. Slowly lower the back all the way down onto the earth. We're going to set up for a supported bridge pose. Also a really nice back bend, supported. Very nice place to end our class today. From here, grabbing your block, we're going to place it right underneath the sacrum so that the sacrum is supported. Find that nice juicy spot so that you feel comfortable. And you can also play with the height of the block as well. Choose either the lower or the middle height of the block. I would avoid the very tallest height because that's not as stable. If you want to get higher, then grab 2 blocks. So wherever you're at, we're going to use this supported bridge pose as our version of Shavasana today. Moving slowly as we do in this yin yoga class, it's easy to transition from our movement into the outside world as each pose is quite slow and we have time to connect with our breath and our thoughts. And we'll use these last couple of moments here in bridge pose just to facilitate that connection that we have with our awareness, with our bodies and ourselves. Maybe noticing the openness that we have within our physical body, and use that openness to bring it to our heart as we step off our mat today, to feel more open with others as we embrace ourselves and our interactions and observe our actions as we make our way through the world. If you'd like, you can stay here much longer. If you're ready to come out, go ahead and push into the mat with the feet to remove the block and set it off to the side as you slowly sink the hips back down towards the earth. From here, let's just allow the knees to knock in towards each other and to rest in this constructive rest position for a moment. Inhale. And exhale, maybe giving ourselves one of those nice sighs that we know are so good for us now. In your own time, slowly make your way onto your side. Push into the mat. Make your way towards a seated position. And from here, we'll cross the legs and we'll close our class with an inhale. Draw the arms up. Take a great big stretch to awaken the body. Allow the palms to connect and draw the hands down through heart center as we close our practice. And thank ourselves for showing up to the mat today. I hope you enjoyed this class. As always, I hope you have a great day and make sure you make it a good one because the choices you make do make a difference. As always, hit that subscribe button for new classes here every single week. Take care. Bye.